Hello, my name is Patrick Moore. As an ecologist and co-founder of Greenpeace, I've studied forestry issues from an environmentalist perspective. In the late 1960s, I was on the front lines of many protests as a radical environmentalist. It was during this time that I helped to found Greenpeace, and for the next 15 years, I would continue to use confrontation to express my point of view. During the 1980s, my thinking evolved from using confrontation to trying to find consensus about solutions to environmental issues. One such issue that I'd like to introduce to you is the need to restore the landscape after catastrophic fires for the benefit of the environment and our communities. Today, I would like to share a vision that has been inspired by communities that care for our future, communities that care for the economy, communities for healthy forests. Fire, a natural part of our forest landscape. It has occurred since the beginning of time and will be with us forever. Not all fires can be classified as catastrophic or devastating. In fact, fire can be an important and useful component of a healthy forest environment. Crown fires, however, destroy everything in their path and leave in their wake a landscape of dead trees and sterile soil. In recent years, there's been an increase in the number of devastating fires in western forests. These devastating fires are not normal. Decades of fire suppression management has allowed the underbrush to accumulate, creating conditions of excessive fuel in the forest. Fires in recent years have been bigger, hotter, and more catastrophic. Over the last 10 years, the combined acreage that has burned in the western United States is equal to the areas of Delaware, New Jersey, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Maryland, Massachusetts, and Vermont combined. Why is it we have so many catastrophic fires, particularly in the West? The answer centers around the elements of climate and geography. The combination of these forces have created a phenomenon which has become known as Lightning Alley. It is the location of these storms that impact so much of our federal forests and will continue to do so in the future. It is our tendency to look at forest fires as single events. The fires gain attention and notoriety when they're out of control, and particularly if they threaten life and property. As they are controlled and finally extinguished, the public interest fades until the next fire. And many people assume that after a large forest fire, the process of rehabilitation begins quickly. This is not always the case. So what is the effect of standing by and doing nothing after the fire is put out? Let's take a look. I'm walking through what was once a beautiful forest of fir, pine, and cedar until a catastrophic wildfire burned 16,000 acres in 1996. Because there was no clear policy directing the government to recover the dead trees promptly and restore the landscape, none of the dead trees were removed and none of this land was replanted. As the insects and rot attack the trees, they're falling over, accumulating on the ground, providing tinder for the next fire, which will be far more intense and damaging to the soil. Trees that were not killed outright by the hot fire have succumbed to attack by insects, adding to the amount of dead wood. On the ground, we find a carpet of brush, ready to take up any moisture in the soil before the fir, cedar, and pine seedlings have a chance. As we move away from the tall green survivors, we find no seedlings on the ground. Large areas where there are no live trees are destined to have no conifer forest as we knew them before the fires for many generations. In 1980, 150,000 acres of forest were destroyed when Mount St. Helens erupted in Washington state. These forests were on both private and federal lands. The federal government decided to allow the landscape to recover on its own, relying on natural regeneration to grow the new forest. This decision delayed restoration of the land to its pre-fire condition for 200 years or more. In contrast, the private landowner had a very different plan. They removed the dead trees from their land and promptly replanted seedlings large enough to grow through the ash left behind by the eruption. Today, these seedlings are over 30 feet tall.